What is going on, everyone? This is Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports, and this is a crazy week in sports. You got March Madness Selection Sunday, but on this episode here, we're here to talk about all things NFL free agency. So this is going to be like part one of our free agency series. We'll have next week another episode talking about the guys that signed, but as we're recording this Monday night, a lot of people have signed, and we'll be talking about them as well as some of our predictions for guys who haven't yet signed. And it'll be a fun episode. Even though I'm not liking what my team is doing, we'll still talk about all the other teams. Let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
What's going on, guys? This is Eric, your ranting co-host here, and like Zach was alluding to, I could probably rant on what the Jags are doing right now, but I won't.
That's nothing new.
Yeah, shocker. Yeah, I'm going to give them a little more time, though. You know, it's only the first day of free agency, and a lot of them were just kind of filler signings, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, ready to break it down, and also hoping I get some more of my picks right. We're going to get into that, but I have not been doing very good so far.
What is going on, guys? It is Connor, the co-host with the most. Got a little bit of a different slide here. I put up the App State winning the Sun Belt basketball championship and just kind of move some stuff around. But I'm excited to talk about free agency. I'm currently tied for first right now with the most correct picks with Nate with 4. And there's been 13, so not doing fantastic at the moment. But, you know, we're not expecting to get a majority of these right. So I will also be providing updates as the night goes on because stuff is still going on.
Yep, and our own Adam Schefter here.
Yep, and latest update looks like the Bengals. This is not official or anything yet, but it's a rumor that they could be in the mix to be signing Mike Hilton here pretty soon. So,
okay,
guess we'll see.
Bengals just got Trey Hendrickson just before we started, so yeah, that's interesting. We'll definitely have you on for future updates on this podcast episode. Now, we're still not finished yet introducing the crew, but Nate, go ahead.
Hey,
what's up, man?
What's up, guys? It's Nate here. Yeah, like everyone kind of alluded to, it was a exciting day with all the free agents, and it's weird being a Pats fan and seeing them actually spend money on players that I've heard of before for once. So definitely an exciting day for, all around. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, definitely, man. A lot of the people the Pats signed won't be on this list of people that we have to talk about, but they have been active. They've signed a lot of people, and I'm sure you're happy with most of them. But the way we're going to do this, guys, is before free agency started, we picked 5 quarterbacks and then 30 other best of other position players to talk about in preparation for free agency. So what we did is we picked all those players and we made our predictions. Some of the predictions weren't made in time, judging by how fast some of these signings came in, but we made our predictions for where we thought these people would go. Originally, I guess I was planning for this to be a prediction-only type of show, but obviously we have, I guess, so now we're up to 13 total signings and confirmed signings here. So we'll talk about those 13 signings more in much more detail, and then next week we'll go ahead and talk about the rest of the guys. But let's start things off with predictions for guys that haven't been signed yet, and you'll be listening to this as early as Tuesday. So keep in mind this is being recorded Monday night. We'll put this up earlier on Tuesday. So we'll release this episode earlier than the 5 p.m. typical release, but let's go ahead and just start with our predictions, guys, and we'll go one by one and kind of make a case for each prediction, and then we'll get to the guys that actually have been signed. So starting with the quarterbacks, most important position, they're first on our agenda today. So the first one we have here is Alex Smith. My prediction is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think just sounds right. I don't think he's going to get a starting job anywhere. The Chiefs need a backup quarterback, and I think he'd be a good backup for him. He's been there before. Chance for him to reunite with Mahomes. Just a great story. So that's what I've got. Alex Smith to the Chiefs. Eric, what about you?
I've got him going to the Bears. I know the Bears are highly rumored for a Russell Wilson trade, but it's not a guarantee that could happen. So bringing Alex Smith in, I think it goes well either way, because if they get Russell Wilson, then he'll be a great backup for them. But if not, then he is capable of playing if need be. And there's some feedback going on. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but
it sounds fine on my end, so maybe it's me. I don't know. Okay, Connor, what about you, Alex Smith?
Yeah, so I've got Alex Smith going to the New York Jets. I think mainly I agree with Zach that I don't think he's going to be a starter anywhere. If he does end up starting with the Jets, then I think it'll probably be just for like the first couple of weeks. I think they're going to try and bring him in to try and mentor whoever they want to draft, whether that be Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or whoever they want to draft. Or, if they decide to not draft a quarterback and still stick with Sam Darnold, because who knows, because, Jets fans think he's God or something. So, but yeah, I think he's just more so going to be in a mentor role with the Jets. But again, like Zach said with the Chiefs, he can play if he needs, or like Eric said with the Bears, he can play if he needs to. So,
yeah,
I think that's going to be a good fit for him.
And then Nate, I see you have him going to a team I know a lot about. Talk about that.
Yes, I mean, this one's a little bit more of a kind of a stretch here, but I think he would go back to the Jaguars to reunite with his former coach, Urban Myers. I mean, obviously they still have Gardner Minshew as a backup. He's a lot younger and a lot cheaper, but I feel like, having a guy with a lot of experience to come in and mentor really both Gardner and Trevor Lawrence, at least for a year. I don't think he's, like you said, I don't think he's going to, come in and start and play anywhere, but I won't be a bad guy to have around, on some short money, so.
Yeah, I'd be a fan of that, honestly. I don't know if I'd be a fan of keeping Minshew in that situation, but at least for Trevor, I think he'd be great. So moving now to quarterback number 2 on our list, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Eric and I both have him going to the Eagles. I'll speak for why we think that's going to be. I don't think he goes back to Miami. I think Miami doesn't want him back. I think they're trying to move forward with Tua, and looking at places he can go, I mean, it's definitely not a shocker for him to go to a new team. He's been to like 9 teams before, but I think the Eagles are next in line, honestly, because they have one of the least certain quarterback situations with Jalen Hurts. Like it seems like he's going to be the starter, but it seems like a Gardner Minshew sort of quote unquote starter thing where it's like he's not a first round pick, so he's not going to be guaranteed that 3-year time frame, like guys like Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, Blake Bortles had. So I think he's going to go to Philly to mentor Jalen Hurts. And also, too, the Eagles are one of those teams that always invests in backup quarterbacks. Remember Nick Foles? They're a team that I think is going to want to pay more money for a backup than most other teams won't. So because of the situation and the team, I think the Eagles are real likely suitors for Fitz, but Connor and Nate both have him going to the Eagles. I'll let Nate speak.
The Dolphins.
I mean, not the Eagles, the Dolphins. I don't know why I said the Eagles. So Nate, say why you guys think he's gonna stay with Miami.
So I mean, I actually personally would like to see him go to a different team just because I think he started for like 9 different or 8 or 9 different teams. I think in his career it would be fun to see like how many different helmets he could play in, but. I think him coming back to the Dolphins would make a lot of sense just because he's been there, he's experienced, and they're kind of like, in a state of transition with, Tua. They don't really know for sure where they want to go with him. It seems like people are already calling for them to draft a replacement, but whatever they do there, I think they need a, somewhat proven guy like that to come in and start and probably win games for them if need be.
All right. And then moving next to our third quarterback on the list is going to be Andy Dalton. And 3 of us have him staying with Dallas. Myself, Eric, and Nate all have Dallas as his team that he will join next year. So, Eric, talk about this reason. Why'd you go with Dallas, and kind of speak for the rest of us on that? Eric, you with us?
Oh yeah, my bad.
Okay.
I was muted. My bad. So I was seeing if I was the noise earlier. I've got Andy Dalton in a similar position that we have with Alex Smith, where most likely he's not going to be a starter wherever he goes. So I think staying in Dallas makes the most sense. He, did a all right job for Dallas when Dak was injured. I think for Dallas it would be a high priority for them to bring him back because you really need that insurance to have in case if Dak gets hurt again. Because in years past, when like Romo got hurt, their backups they had were just horrible, and their seasons ended as soon as it happened. Whereas with Andy Dalton, they still had a chance, with as bad as the division was last year. So unless Andy Dalton can find a starting gig somewhere, I think it makes sense for him to come back to Dallas, and I think it would be wise for Dallas to bring him back as well.
All right, and then Connor's the only one being different on this one. You have him staying in a similar state, but talk about your prediction, Connor.
Ooh, whoa. Oh, God, something's in my throat.
But you got like auto-tune robot going on there.
But yeah, so I've got him going to Houston. I think it makes sense for Houston because obviously, the Houston GM has been so stubborn, so upfront. Like, we're not trading Deshaun Watson. We're not trading Deshaun Watson. No matter what anyone offers us, we're not trading Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson has been saying like, oh, well, I'm going to sit out then. Like, I'm not going to play. So I think it makes sense for them to bring in Dalton because like he's not going to be expensive at all. Because he knows he's not going to be a starter. So they can bring him in as kind of like an insurance policy. And just in case Deshaun Watson does decide to sit out, then at least you have a quarterback because the Houston knows that they're not going to win this year. Like they know that they're probably going to miss the playoffs and that they're, starting to go into more of a rebuild mode. But, at least, you can have a quarterback there that can kind of hold down the fort, be a placeholder for a season, and, you're not just going to completely crash and burn with someone who no one's ever heard of because the Texans know they're not going to be able to get a quarterback in the draft because they gave up their number 3 pick to the Dolphins when they got, Laramie Tunsil and from them and Kenny Stills from them. So I think it just makes sense for Houston to get a backup quarterback like this. I mean, I don't think that they want to go after Fitz because I think Fitz wants to be a starter. So I think Andy Dalton makes the most sense here for them.
All right. And then moving on now to the last quarterback on the list here is Mitch Trubisky. So we always poke fun at him whenever he comes on the podcast, but 3 of us have him going to the Denver Broncos. That would be myself, Eric, and Connor all agree on something that he's going to go to the Broncos. My quick thoughts on this is I really don't know what's going to happen. I just don't think he's back with Chicago. And the situation in Denver, you have Drew Lock, but he's not a proven guy. And I don't think Denver is in a great position in the draft to get a top quarterback. They could, but it seems like they could end up having like a competition sort of thing with Mitch and Drew Lock. So that I think makes an interesting storyline there. But Nate, you have him going to another team that we've already talked about. So share us your prediction for Mitch.
Yeah, so I think I could definitely see him going to Denver. That would make a lot of sense to me too. But I think I could also see him going to the Texans though, because the whole situation with Deshaun Watson there. If they do end up trading him, I don't think he really has any intention of playing with the team next year. So I think they've got to figure out a trade for him at some point. I think once that happens, I think Trubisky is someone they would probably sign because like who else is out there really that has any experience. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the non-quarterbacks, obviously the other top free agents out there, and we have these kind of broken down by divisions of their old teams. So this is the NFC South here. Curtis Samuel. Let's just see. We all have him going, or Eric and Nate both have him going to the Jets. So Eric, talk real quick about why you could see Samuel as a Jet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen now with Corey Davis going there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably way less likely. But when I initially made the pick, I came down between the Jets and the Jags because I felt like with both of those teams having a lot of cap space, that they might both go after him. But I picked the Jets over the Jags because I felt like the Jaguars have better receivers and don't need receivers as much. So I figured if they got into, whereas the Jets are more desperate. So I felt like if they got into a bidding war, the Jets would probably outbid them. But obviously, they could still bring in another wide receiver. Who knows? But with bringing in Corey Davis, not likely. But so I'm thinking I'm probably going to have a red square going over my another incorrect pick for me. But.
Yeah, that's fine.
Who knows?
Yeah, so I've got him going to the Jags, and I'm still hoping this ends up happening. I just think Urban Meyer said he wanted fast. He wants speed. Samuel is speed, and he already has a relationship with him from Ohio State. So those sort of things combined, the Jags need to get a wide receiver, and I think this makes the most sense for all parties involved. So that's why I picked the Jags. Eric, how about you? Connor, sorry. How about you? There's so many pictures and stuff on the screen. Connor, where do you have him landed?
Yeah, so this is kind of the same as with Eric with the Jets. I don't know if this is going to happen now. I had him going to the Patriots, which, the Patriots today, they've already signed Nelson Aguilar and they've already signed Kendrick Bourne. So, the Patriots definitely could use another receiver because they literally had none last season. So who knows? I just don't think it's likely anymore. But that's why I originally had him going to the Patriots, just because, he kind of fits that sort of gadget type role that, Bill Belichick kind of likes to use. And, and the Patriots had a major need for wide receivers. So,
yeah, they did.
Well, and they're also getting Marquise Lee back from COVID. So that.
Oh, really? I thought he retired, honestly.
Well, I just remember he opted out for COVID last year. So assuming he comes back, he's going to be dangerous.
I know. The next guy we have here is a safety, Keanu Neal from the Falcons. So I have him going to the Ravens. I just think they need to fill the void of Earl Thomas, and I think he'll be affordable with all of his injuries. A team should be able to get him for pretty cheap. I might have a mini rant about the salary cap later on when we get to New Orleans signing, but I think the Ravens can get him. They have a need. It's still possible, and it's not the most sure thing in the world, but I think the Ravens make sense for him. But Eric, Connor, and Nate all have him going to the Dallas Cowboys, so I'll let Eric speak for the group on that. Why'd you pick the Cowboys for Keanu Neal?
I remember when I was researching him, I didn't have too much of a reason for picking him, but when I was researching, there were like 3 teams that were considered to be a fit. I don't remember who the other 2 were that I was looking at, but I just thought out of those teams that I saw that the Cowboys made the most sense because the Cowboys have a huge need at that position. So that was my sole reasoning for that. I just felt like it was a good fit that made sense. But
yeah. Moving on now to the NFC North. We'll start with Kenny Golladay, probably the highest priced wide receiver free agent this year. And we actually all are in agreement on this one for the New York Giants. We all predicted him to go to the Giants. We'll see what happens. Connor, I think you're the most confident about this, so I'll let you say why the Giants make sense for Golladay.
Most confident still being like not very confident because these wide receivers are very volatile. But it's just the Giants need all the help they can get. They need to stop relying on Saquon Barkley solely for their offense. That we've seen what happens when he is the sole part of their offense. He's gotten hurt the last 2 years, so they definitely need receiving help. It will definitely help Daniel Jones to have a true number 1 receiver like Kenny Golladay. Obviously, the big problem for him is that he's also injury prone, but he would really fill a need for the Giants on offense that Sterling Shepard's not going to be a number 1 receiver ever. And, Evan Ingram can't, he's a great tight end, but he can't do it on his own. So getting Kenny Golladay really gives them that true number 1 receiver. And I think it can really open up the passing game. And it would help Saquon Barkley a lot because then teams would have someone else they have to actually game plan for.
Yeah, it seems like the Giants really need a big wide receiver 1. Next up, we have Anthony Harris, the safety from the Vikings, was franchise tagged last year, hit the open market now, so he's a free agent. I have him going to the Washington football team. This is one of those things that I can't remember if I picked Washington last year for him, but Washington, it seems like, has always been in the mix for him, dating back to last season. So that's why I ended up going with him. They have the need there. They have a lot of cap space. So I think that's a good pairing. Eric and Connor both have the Cleveland Browns. So Eric, talk about the Browns and Anthony Harris potential.
Well, this is another
Yeah.
one kind of like
Yeah, you're right.
the one I had earlier where the Browns already have brought in a safety. So
Not happening.
probably going to be another red square. But because I really wanted
That's gonna be the theme of this episode for Eric is red square.
yeah, red square meaning incorrect. Unfortunately, as I mentioned at the beginning, my picks have not been going very well. But yeah, I was hopeful the Jags were going to get the safety from the Rams. So when that didn't happen, I then put him for the Browns here. But that obviously is not going to happen.
Okay.
Hey, well,
Nate.
maybe the Jags will go after Anthony Harris since they didn't get John Johnson.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it'd be nice if we could get somebody who I don't have like Zach and I were kind of in our group chat. We're talking about this. Like, it'd be nice if the Jaguars would bring somebody in that we don't have to Google who they are.
Yeah.
To find out who they are, you know. But we
Nate,
got a punt returner though.
Yeah. Nate, talk about the team that you have Harris going to.
Yeah, I mean, I have him down with the Jets just because I think they're still looking for probably a replacement for Jamal Adams after they traded him away. Obviously, they have needs basically at every position, but I think a safety like that quality could be really helpful for him, and it kind of just makes sense considering who else is still left looking for a safety now that Joe Johnson is off the market.
Yeah. Okay, moving on now to another division here with the NFC West. The highlight free agent from this division is definitely Trent Williams, the big left tackle from San Francisco. So I've got him going to the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts have a huge need at left tackle with Costanzo retiring. They have a lot of cap space. Trent Williams is far and away the best left tackle, and the Colts value offensive line. They've shown that in the past. They used to not. That's why Andrew Luck retired, but they learned their lesson, and they really value offensive line. So I think the Colts are going to spend big money on Trent Williams, and the fact that he hasn't already inked a deal with San Francisco means to me he's probably going to leave. It's just one of those things. Why didn't you already do it? You're in free agency now. The Colts are probably going to offer the most money. I think they can offer more than San Fran, and he is the kind of guy I think that wants to get the most money no matter what sort of team he goes to. So that's my thoughts on Trent. But I'll let Connor speak because you're very sure about this one for staying with San Fran.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just I think it's a foregone conclusion that he stays in San Francisco. I mean, I know the 49ers value him. It's one of those things that they would have tagged him had it not been for the fact that he had a no tag clause in his contract. So I think it's just we haven't heard anything yet, so it does make me slightly nervous. But at the end of the day, I still think that they'll work something out with him because I mean, honestly, it took longer than I thought for Shaq Barrett to go back to the Buccaneers, but at the end of the day, he still did go back to the Buccaneers. So it just takes time for them to work out this deal. And I think, like I said, the 49ers, they're really, really intent on bringing him back because, they need to make sure that Jimmy G or whoever stays back there at quarterback is protected because they've had so many injuries at quarterback. So offensive line is very important for them.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we've got his teammate here, Richard Sherman, one of the free agent corners, obviously still not to be signed. And I've got him going to the Jets, actually. Surprising enough, you wouldn't think a guy like Sherman would want to go to the Jets, but the sole reason I have this is because of Robert Saleh. I've always heard he's always spoken very highly of Robert Saleh, and I think it's a case where the Jets have a need. They can give him a lot of money, and it's a good fit because a lot of times the fit doesn't work out with player and team, but I think with the type of defense they'll have, he's the kind of guy the Jets really want to get to be a leader in that defense, and I think he wouldn't mind going to play for Saleh. But Eric, everybody else picked the Raiders, by the way. So, Eric, make the case quickly for the Raiders and Sherman.
Well, I picked the Raiders just because, from mostly what I've heard about Sherman, is that he seems to want to stay out on the West Coast. So I felt like this was a pretty good fit for him there, because I don't feel like, he seems like it's pretty obvious he's not going to go back to San Francisco. He's not going to go back to Seattle. So, and the Raiders, could use some help at corner. So I feel like it's a good fit, and it's in the area that he wants to play at. So I think he's got a good chance to go to the Raiders.
Yeah, for sure, man. Next up, we got a couple Seattle players to talk about. Chris Carson, highlighting a pretty thin running back class now that Aaron Jones did re-sign with Green Bay. But for Chris Carson, I think he leaves Seattle first of all. Too many injuries, fresh start, that sort of thing. But I've got him going to the Buffalo Bills. Their running situation was really, really bad last year. It really cost them in the playoffs. I think not being able to run the ball. So they have the need. They should be able to get him for fairly cheap, I think. And I just think he's a sort of running back that they would want up in Buffalo. They don't have a proven running back, like I said, so that's really why I have them. Nate, talk about the Jets, because you guys actually, I'll let Connor talk about the Jets for this one, then I'll have Nate give the other player. But so Connor, go ahead and sorry, go on for the Jets.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just, the Jets, they're really going to need a good running back to go with whoever they have at quarterback. Le'Veon Bell wasn't the answer, still isn't the answer. So, they definitely need another running back. And like I said, Chris Carson can be your number one guy. He can, carry the workload. It's just, and I considered the Buffalo Bills, but to me, I think the Buffalo Bills, they're still gonna want to rely on Singletary and Zach Moss, because obviously a big thing and why they couldn't run the ball during the playoffs was because Zach Moss got hurt. So I think that tandem of Singletary and Moss is better than a lot of people think, especially since the Bills have been re-signing a bunch of their offensive linemen at the moment, which they have a really good offensive line. So I think the Jets just make more sense right now. And I don't think the Bills really want to focus on bringing in anyone new at the moment. I think the Bills are really focused on just re-signing people that they already have and just keeping the team together, because, they were really close to a Super Bowl. So
yeah, they've already re-signed a bunch of people as well. So you're right about that. Next up is, like I said, his teammate in Seattle, Shaq Griffin, at the corner. Obviously, he was on Sports Jeopardy, actually. As a correct answer, but I've got him going to the Broncos. Boye's leaving. They need corner help. Obviously, we all agree that they need to get one of these corners in Denver. So I just think it's going to end up being Shaq. I don't think, kind of like another thing is, I don't typically have guys returning to their same teams, even though that's probably the safer option. I just think, from what you're hearing out of the 12s up in Seattle, it seems like he's gone, but I don't know. You guys all seem to think he's staying in Seattle. So, Nate, I'll let you give your perspective on that. The former UCF Shaq Griffin.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it would make sense for him to stay in Seattle just because, I mean, the Seahawks need to pay up for somebody. I think it would be huge for their defense to keep him around, especially if they're gonna, it sounds like they're gonna lose. Russ is coming up in the coming weeks. And I think now we're hearing the Browns might be taking a look at him. That could be a big deal there. But I think, I mean, it's important for him to stay with his brother, too. I know that's important to both of them. His twin there is going to probably stay in Seattle, I would assume. So that might be a factor in his decision. But I don't know. I think that's kind of the safe pick for me. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm just going to say for Jadeveon Clowney, there is no predicting on him. It's just throwing darts at a board. We all have him going different places. I've got him to Dallas. Eric has him to Cleveland. Connor has him going to Jacksonville. And Nate has him going to Baltimore. So I'm just going to skip him and just say, who knows? But
considering that he was on our board forever last year.
Is Clowney going to clown us?
We'll see. So the other AFC South player that we want to highlight and talk about is Will Fuller. One of these wide receivers. I personally think he goes to Detroit. Nate also agrees with me here. They're losing. They're losing. What's his face?
Galladay.
Galladay. There we go. Yeah, it's just names after names today. But Galladay, they're losing him. They brought in Tyrell Williams for cheap, but that's not the only wide receiver they can have because they're also losing Marvin Jones. So they need to get one of these wide receivers. I think it'll be Fuller though. Just seems like a good fit in my opinion. But Eric, you disagree? You've got him going to another AFC South team.
Yeah, partially the reason why I picked him to go here. Again, I picked a lot of my picks based on, rumors and stuff like that from what I was hearing. And then once I narrow down the list of, teams that I think might be interested, then I go with what I think is a good fit. I do think the Colts could use some help at the wide receiver position. And another reason why I'm picking him to go to the Colts is because I feel like he, kind of like Deshaun Watson, might also be upset with the organization. I know he really likes Deshaun Watson and everything, and he might feel like that they've kind of done him wrong and everything. So he might want to go to a rival. I think he might go to a rival team to try to, stick it to him per se and get back at their rival. So, but that's just pure speculation, obviously. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And then finally, Connor, you got him going to another team as well. So I'll talk about that prediction.
Yeah, so I've got him going to the Green Bay Packers. I considered having him go to Detroit, but I think the reason why Detroit won't sign him is because he's not really a number one receiver. He's definitely more of a number two. And I think there actually is a receiver out there who's not on our list, but T.Y. Hilton. I think the Lions might want to go after him instead. Since he's more of a number one receiver. But I think he's going to be a real good fit for the Packers because they are losing Allen Lazard to free agency this offseason. So they definitely need someone who can be a true number two to Devontae Adams, which is something they haven't ever had. So I think Will Fuller can really step in and be that guy for them.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a move now to the AFC West, and there's a lot of guys left still, but I just kind of want to focus on one. That'll be Hunter Henry. I predicted him to go to New England, but that's obviously not happening anymore since Jonnu Smith went there. But Eric and Nate both have him going to Carolina. So Eric, I'll ask you, how come Carolina for Hunter Henry?
Again, I kind of feel like that Hunter Henry would be a great fit for them. I do also think that he would be a good fit for the Jags. I also considered putting the Jags on here, and I did also consider the Patriots. Those are my top three that I was considering there. But ultimately, I think he'd be a great fit for the Panthers. I think everybody was thinking that they were going to make a trade for Deshaun Watson and everything, but who knows if that's really going to happen now. And the process of prepping to do that, the Panthers did clear up a lot of cap space. So I feel like they're going to need to spend that money at some point, and getting a guy like Hunter Henry could help them start to rebuild that offense.
All right, and speaking of the Jags, our man Connor has Hunter Henry going to the Jags. So talk about that prediction.
I mean, the Jags really should have gone out and signed Jonnu Smith, but maybe that was my guilty conscience there with the Jags, not trusting their front office. But Hunter Henry, tight end is another big need for the Jaguars, and I think, just get Trevor Lawrence all the help you can get, and, they have the most money, so they should definitely go out and get a tight end here. I don't think the Panthers really have the money to go. I mean, I know they have the money to get Hunter Henry, but I think they would want to probably try and spend that elsewhere, maybe getting some defensive pieces, or maybe who knows, maybe they might try and re-sign Curtis Samuel. I don't know, but I think he's a good fit for the Jaguars. Hopefully he can stay healthy for them if he goes there. And I do have a slight update. This isn't actually someone on our board, but it is a big time. It is a big time free agent. Dalvin Tomlinson has just signed with the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, wow. I was low key hoping he'd be coming to Duval, but that's not happening
that was
now.
so funny. I was like, I messaged Zach and I was like, oh, the Jaguars got a D tackle, and you were like, oh, is it Tomlinson? I was like, no, it's Roy Robertson Harris.
It's some
Who?
guy with a hyphenated last name I've never heard of.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Yeah, he didn't make our board, but he was one of those guys I always looked at when we were replacing the players for. So that's breaking news there. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and summarize these other AFC West picks because they're a little bit lower down our list. But Melvin Ingram, the pass rusher from LA Chargers, I've got him going to Carolina, and everybody else has him going to the Raiders. So I see the groupthink really with that one, guys. And then Desmond King, the corner for the LA Chargers. Connor and I both have him going to Atlanta, and Nate and Eric teamed up and think he's going to go to the Denver Broncos. And we all are in agreement with this next guy, Eric Fisher, the surprising cut left tackle from Kansas City. We all have him joining the AFC West rival LA Chargers, but I don't know since the Chargers signed Lindsley if that'll happen or not.
Well, Lindsley is a center, so you never know.
But it's a lot of money. I don't know. And moving on now here, obviously we're going to the AFC North next, and we'll start the conversation with Juju Smith-Schuster. So he's a real interesting. Every time I say Juju, I was saying Boo Boo Smith-Booster. But with Juju, it's really interesting to see where he's going to end up landing. Like, where does he fit with all these wide receivers? If it's, really interesting. Maybe you should have done a tier rankings on these wide receivers, Connor.
Yeah, really.
For your episode,
there's free
so
agent wide receivers.
Yeah, free agent wide receivers. But let's see here. So Nate and I both have him going to Miami. I just think Miami needs they want to surround Tua with help. And I think Juju's the kind of guy that would benefit from being in Miami with the TikTok and all that sort of stuff. It's like I think he would want to go to Miami. It seems like a sort of city made for him. And obviously the Dolphins have that need. So I kind of put two and two together in there and had him going to Miami. But Eric, you've got him going to the Raiders. So you really think John Gruden's going to put up with the TikTok dances?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never know. Like, John Gruden might even get in on one or two of them.
Antonio Brown, the Pittsburgh wide receiver. You don't think that's
like,
hey,
Juju, if you come sign with us, I'll do a TikTok with you. I don't know.
just don't get your feet frozen or get frostbite in your toes.
Yeah. I will admit with this pick, I was like running some errands and running out of time to make my pick, so didn't really get to do a ton of time, spend a ton of time researching on some of these later ones that we've got here. But I do think it's a possibility. I think he would be a good fit there. He could help them. They did lose Nelson Aguilar, who improved last year. So they do have a need, and it just seems like the Raiders are linked with like everybody for some reason. So
they always are. Dude.
Yeah. So
you never know what
so
Gruden's
going
to
do. Last minute spur. I will admit I didn't prepare fully for this part, guys. So I apologize for that.
You're fine.
But but hey, you never know. I mean, the ones where I spent time and analyzed everything, I got all those wrong. So maybe I'll get those right.
And then Connor had the Jets going with Schuster, but it seems like now that won't happen with Corey Davis being a Jet now. So
maybe. I mean, we'll see. Because I think the Jets could use another receiver, and just like you said, with Miami being a good market for him, I think New York could be a good market for TikToks too. So who knows?
And then some of the other guys, I'll just go through these other AFC North players. We've got Mike Hilton, the corner for the Steelers. The three of you guys, I'm always by myself with these. It seems like I've got him going to Arizona. You guys all have him staying in the state of Pennsylvania, going to Philadelphia. And then for Alejandro Villanueva, kind of the lower end of left tackle market, I've got him being the Trent Williams replacement with San Francisco, as does Nate. And then Connor and Eric have him going to Indy. So
funny enough, Nate has Trent Williams going back to San Francisco too. So
yeah, Nate hedged his bets. So I know what he was thinking. I always go for it all though, so I don't do that. But respect to you, Nate. And then finally the last guy here, William Jackson, another corner. Corners galore still haven't been signed yet, guys. We'll be talking a lot about the corners on next week's episode, but William Jackson, Nate and I both agree. We think he will go to Houston, and then Eric and Connor agree that it'll be Denver. So we talked about Denver as a corner landing spot earlier, so they're definitely getting one. It's just a matter of who. And that concludes all of the predictions left. So those are all the predictions that haven't happened as of now. And
we might not know in 5 minutes, but
yeah, obviously, not all these guys might not sign by the time we record next week, but we'll talk about them for sure, the ones that did sign. So let's go ahead now and finish the next part of the show, talking about the guys who did sign today. And we'll start back up at the top with the quarterbacks. So Jameis Winston was the only quarterback on our list to already sign. He re-signs with New Orleans. And this is all I'm going to say, because for the predictions, you guys all got it right with New Orleans. I said Houston and got it wrong. But all I'm going to say about this, and we won't spend too much time on Winston, because I feel like every podcast we always talk about, is it going to be Winston
versus Hill?
Winston versus Hill. That's going to continue on, so I won't talk about that. But I'll just say this for a little mini rant by Zach. The New Orleans Saints went from having negative $100 million in cap space to franchise tagging and re-signing a quarterback for $12 million to that being acceptable. Now, how is that possible? There are so many loopholes in this salary cap the NFL has made. It's not even funny. You look at people like Shaq Barrett. We'll get to him next, actually. Like, the amount of money that they're making is insane compared to the cap hit. And it just, the restructuring and everything, like, I don't know. It just makes me mad when I see teams like the Saints who, there's got to be consequences for your actions. Saints having negative $100 million and then being able to just franchise tag players and re-sign players and probably sign more players. Like, it's just teams like the Jaguars, Jets, Patriots, Bengals, teams like those that are responsible with the cap and, that prepare for a down year, like, that don't spend up to the cap and stuff, and they're like, ooh, let's save our money for 2021 free agency. Like, those are the teams that should have the advantage, not every team in the world should just be able to be like, okay, guys, yeah, you're not going to count against the cap. You're not going to count against the cap. And, hey, you over there, you're not counting against the cap either. There we go. Problem solved. Now we can go and get anybody we want.
And while we're at it, let's just bring in the top free agent too. Like, cause
yeah, it's just like, man, like, and I will say this, I will never, because some of my predictions were factoring in price, but I'm never gonna, if a team wants to sign a player, Joe Tooney, Kansas City Chiefs, if a team wants to sign a player, it doesn't matter what their cap situation is. I'm not ever gonna look into consideration, because no matter what, if a team wants a guy, they'll be like, okay, we need this amount of cap space. Okay, you're not going to count against the cap this year, dude. Okay, NFL will be like, okay.
Yeah, we'll restructure your cap hit to happen in 2025.
Yeah, it's just too much.
That's what I'm wondering now. Like, are some of these teams going to be like royally screwed like 3 years from now because they're restructuring?
No, they won't, because when it's time for those 2025 cap hits in 2025, then they'll restructure the cap hits for 2028.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Why can't we exploit these loopholes in Madden? Like, when free agency rolls around, and we can just sign all the best free agents.
Well, there's so many problems with Madden. They wouldn't know how to figure out how to do that.
That's like the one thing they technically get right is the salary cap.
Yeah,
because they get trades horribly wrong. So
Okay, well, mini rant over. I wanted to make it a mini rant. I don't want to go on 10 minutes, but that is the mini rant for the episode. So let's get on to some other players. In the NFC South, we have two pass rushers here. Shaq Barrett re-signs with Tampa, and I was a little optimistic with my prediction. I said Jacksonville. I thought, I was naive. I thought the salary cap was a real thing, but it wasn't. Sorry, guys. I'll stop. But I thought the Jags.
I don't care, dude. I don't care.
I thought the Jags could give him a lot more money.
Well, they probably
Tampa.
could have.
Yeah, they probably could have. But I thought he wanted to break the bank, he said, and all that. So I thought, okay, Tampa, they have all these guys they need to bring back. I don't think they're going to bring him back, but they obviously did. You guys all played it safe and got it right with Tampa. But really in a bigger picture sort of thing, like, this is huge in my opinion. They're really bringing the band back together, which is what Nate and I said they needed to do at the end of the Super Bowl. We were like, this is the biggest one they need to bring back. They ended up getting all three of the big guys back. And
they got Gronk back too.
And Gronk. So for me, this confirms basically. I was waiting for this to happen, but I think this is definitely making them the front runners in the NFC. Do any of you guys disagree with that? Does this really make the Bucs front runners in the NFC now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was mulling over the 49ers and the Rams, could they challenge it? But, the fact that they brought, if they had let Shaq Barrett go, then I might have considered it, depending on where he went. But, definitely since they, like you said, they brought the big three back, they got Gronk back, they even extended Brady by another year. So, yeah, this is definitely, they are the front runners right now. I mean, I don't see how anyone could argue that.
Yeah. The next guy on this list, another free agent here, Trey Hendrickson, the former Saints pass rusher. If the Saints were able to bring him back, I might have flipped my computer and done some other stuff. But he goes to the Bengals, and we're starting to see the pass rusher market really start to heat up now. So we all got this prediction wrong. Eric and I had him going to the Raiders, and Connor had him going with his former coach to Detroit. Nate had him going to Cleveland. We all got it wrong. I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this one or not, but I think Trey Hendrickson is really overrated. He's only really had one good season last year, and I think he benefited from the defensive line on New Orleans and that secondary, how good that secondary was. I think this is going to be one of those signings that is going to be looking at as a huge overpay. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm just not a...
I could probably find that for you pretty quickly, actually.
I'm just not a big believer in him. I don't know. Nate, I'll ask you if you agree with me on this. Are you a believer in Trey Hendrickson? Do you think this is worth it for Cincy?
No, I like him, but you look at his stats, and he's got 20. Not that sacks tell the whole picture, but 20 career sacks in 4 seasons is not worth $60 million to me. Especially like you said, when he's playing in that Saints defense, that a lot of his sacks were either coverage sacks or he had, other guys in the D line were freeing. Yeah, Cameron Jordan freeing up the, getting double teamed and opening things up for him. I think since he's not going to get all that value out of him.
Yeah,
it's a 4 year, it's 4 years, $60 million with $32 million the first 2 years.
For that much, they could have just re-signed
Carl Lawson.
Yeah, I think Carl Lawson's better. I think Carl Lawson's better. So I don't know. I mean, he was a big name, obviously, but he's one of those guys that I'm glad the Jags didn't end up signing. So I'm okay with that. But we'll move on now here and hit up some NFC North people that signed. I'm gonna kind of skip Romeo Okwara because I know he's a great player, but being up in Detroit, we don't really hear a lot about him. So I don't think any of us. He was a late addition to this list, anyways. We all got him wrong. So I'm gonna kind of skip him, but he did re-sign with Detroit. That's another thing that makes it less interesting. He re-signed, so we'll skip Romeo Okwara. But Corey Linsley, the new highest paid center in the NFL, goes to the LA Chargers. So this kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. I had him going to the Jets. Eric had him with the Bengals, and Connor and Nate had him to the Miami Dolphins. But I was a little bit surprised by this. I wasn't surprised he ended up being the highest paid center, but um, I mean the Chargers do need offensive line help, I know, but I thought the Jets were really gonna break the bank for him. Like I thought the Jets were really like gonna go out for these offensive linemen, but they ended up not doing that. How do you like this move for LA though? I think it's a really good move for LA. Connor, do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good move. I mean, they definitely need offensive line. I think for them, I know we all picked Eric Fisher to go to the Chargers later on, which I think that would be good too. And I hope it happens so we look smart. But
Yeah.
I think the problem for the Chargers though is that I don't think center was necessarily. I mean, I know Mike Pouncey retired and everything, but like I don't know if center was necessarily their biggest need. I think a tackle was probably their biggest need on the line. And if I'm being completely honest, the Chargers, where their money needs to really be spent this offseason is on the defense because that offense could put up points
Yeah. You're
even
right,
with
yeah.
like their offensive line. So, obviously while it helps, and like I said, I don't think it was their biggest need, and I think that they should more so be focusing on the defense, especially since they're going to be losing Melvin Ingram and Desmond King, and they just cut Casey Hayward. Like they did bring back Michael Davis, but like that's one of your three corners right there, and the other two are gone. So, also breaking news really quickly:
Okay.
Ryan Fitzpatrick has just signed a deal with the Washington Football Team.
Wow.
Well,
I heard that
Zach
was
and
a
I got the
late.
right division.
Yeah, I heard that was a late possibility for sure. So wow, that's real interesting. My thoughts on that, he'll probably end up playing. Like
Probably. He's probably going to be
uh
the starter.
yeah, so because they don't have anybody really other than that guy, Heineke guy. So they're that
And
wow,
Kyle
that's
Allen.
real interesting. Yeah, Kyle Allen. So Fitz going to another new team. So wow, that's real interesting. But I was not prepared to talk about that. Moving on to the next division here, the NFC West. So the safety from the Rams, John Johnson. So many jokes you can make with that name, but he ends up signing with the Browns, a really underrated and good player in my eyes. This was a guy, Eric and I both had him projected to the Jags. I'm bummed out about this one. Probably the second most out of all the people that didn't sign with the Jags, but
Behind
uh,
Jonnu.
behind Johnu. Yeah, Eric, talk about how disappointing it is that the Jags don't get him. And I will say too, I don't know if you heard about this, Eric, or not, but it was a report that came out and said that another team offered John Johnson significantly more money than Cleveland did, but he chose Cleveland instead. Do you think that was us?
I mean, it's highly possible. I've heard mixed reports from the Jags. So, like we heard Balky, the GM, say that we've got a lot of money and we'll spend, but then we've also heard Urban Meyer say like, oh, we don't want to like spend all our money in one place kind of thing. So we didn't really know what they were going to do, but the Jags need safety help so bad, man. It's I mean, we've got a lot of holes to fill obviously on this team, but uh he was somebody I really was wanting to get. I had him high on my list of, hopes and dreams. So not getting him is definitely a disappointment, but I can understand why he went to Cleveland since they're, more
Yeah.
built to win right now, whereas Jacksonville's got some work to do and stuff like that. So, for sure, but
Yeah,
disappointed, obviously.
it's our loss, even though we never had him. But I think it's a big win for the Browns. Adding to that defense, you're going to need as many key guys on the defense in that division as possible. So I think it's a really good move for Cleveland, and I know their fans are happy about it. Um, Moving on now to the AFC South. So the division Eric and I are most familiar about. Corey Davis ends up signing with the New York Jets. This is the only prediction I've gotten right all year. So he signs with the Jets, and Eric, um, Connor, and Nate all had him going to, or you guys had him going to New England, Washington, and Green Bay as other possible places for him, but he goes to the Jets. Um, I was thinking about this one. I'm not a big fan. I'm glad the Jags didn't get him, and I've heard Titans fans have mixed things to say. Some really wanted him back, and others were fine with him leaving. My thing is similar to Hendrickson. It's like this guy was a top pick who was doing nothing in his first 3 years, and then he has a great year last year. But I think it was benefited mostly by AJ Brown being injured and the benefit of Derrick Henry. I think he got really overpaid by the Jets. I think the Jets overpaid for him. I don't think he's going to end up being a great receiver for him. What do you guys think about that? I guess start with Connor. Like, do you agree with me on that, Connor? Or do you think he'll bring the Jets value?
Yeah, I don't. I think the Jets definitely could have gone out and found a better receiver. I don't see Corey Davis as a number one receiver. Like you said, he benefited a lot from when AJ Brown was hurt, and he benefited a lot when AJ Brown was in the game. I mean, I had AJ Brown on my fantasy team this year, and there were times when I'd be like, man, why isn't AJ Brown getting the ball? It's like because they were all going to Corey Davis because it was kind of like the Juju AB sort of thing where defenses were so concerned about AJ Brown and they were double teaming him that Corey Davis would get open. So I definitely don't think the Jets is going to be a good place for him because, obviously it's an unproven quarterback situation. I think, going to one of these other, maybe not the Patriots, but going to the Washington football team, especially now with Fitz, or going to the Packers would have been better for him with a proven quarterback. So
yeah,
I don't know.
All about them dollars.
The next guy, his Tennessee teammate here, Jonnu Smith, the either best or second best tight end by most people in the NFL. He ends up going to the New England Patriots, so he's going to fill in the void of Rob Gronkowski since then. So Nate, I bet you're real excited about that, but Nate and Connor got that prediction right. Eric and I got it wrong. I'll just say this was the one I was most disappointed about. I really wanted Jonnu Smith. Steal him from the Titans, the rival. You get him. Seems to work out a lot with those things. And I'm not thrilled about Hunter Henry possibly being on the Jags. So this is why I really wanted Jonnu Smith. After that, it's like Gerald Everett and, not any great tight ends. And I want a really good tight end.
Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
Mercedes Lewis.
So losing out on the Jonnu Smith sweepstakes really, really pains me. But Nate, how excited are you about this for the offense? Like him with Cam Newton seems like it's going to be a really good thing. Could he be like a Greg Olsen was for him in Carolina, do you think?
Oh yeah, I'm super excited about this, and like you said, he'd definitely be. Cam Newton loved Greg Olsen in Carolina, and Jonnu Smith hasn't produced like Greg Olsen at this point in his career, but he's definitely, I think, potentially more athletic, and you can do a lot more different things with him in that offense. Somebody said that he was the Pats number one pass catcher overall on their board for free agency this year. So I think that he's definitely the best offensive weapon they've had since Gronk left 2 years ago. So I'm super excited about this one. I did not see that coming.
What do you mean you didn't see it coming? You had him predicted to go.
I had him predicted, but knowing the Pats, I was like, they'll never actually do it. You never know what they're gonna do. They probably sign some backup guy from
who knows?
Bengals. And
was Bill making the moves or his dog after all those
some
picks?
white guy?
Who knows what his dog was up to today, but he definitely spent a lot of money. Moving on now here to talk about the former players from the AFC East here. We got Joe Thuney, former Patriot, so Nate knows about him as well. We all predicted him going to the Bengals. He actually goes to the Chiefs. I thought for sure it was between the Bengals and Jets. Both of those teams desperately needed offensive line help, and both had a lot of money to spend. But he ends up going to the Chiefs. I really didn't see this move happening at all. I know that they released those two offensive linemen. I guess that's what they were doing. They released them to get the money for Thuney, but I don't know. What do you guys feel about the guard tackle debate? Is there a real big difference to you in your opinions? Do you value tackles a lot more than guards, or for a guard he's making a lot more money? I personally, I don't know. I just don't think having one really highly paid guard on your team and nobody else is going to make a great offensive line. But Nate, kind of speak to how you feel about Tooney, like how he was with the Pats and like the kind of player that he'll be for KC.
Yeah, so I'm kind of conflicted because I definitely agree with what you're saying. I mean, I really liked Tooney as a player. I think he was great for the Pats when he was here, and out of anybody, I think he deserves the money. But at the same time, I do think it is kind of hard to pay up for an O lineman unless it's like a really truly like elite, left tackle in this day and age in the pass first NFL. Unless you're getting a left tackle, I think really overpaying for other positions is kind of tough to do. I think it's better to really, draft good guys in the first round or second round or whatever you got to do and kind of build it that way and then fill in with some kind of lower priced veteran guys and keep that talent in house. But I don't know, I think paying up for one guy on a 5-man O line is kind of tricky, but the Chiefs had to do something to keep Mahomes up right after that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, and I guess to answer your question too about like, do you value guards or tackles more? Like to me, it just depends on what kind of offense you want to run. Like if you want to run a run-heavy offense, then definitely focus more on the centers and guards. But if you want to run a pass-heavy offense like the Chiefs have, then I would definitely value the tackles more. I mean, especially when you saw what happened in the Super Bowl, like.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea were putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes, but it was Shaq Barrett and JPP that was getting to him every play. It wasn't the interior guys; it was the exterior guys. So it kind of baffles me why they would release Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz just to go out and get Joe Tooney. I honestly, it hurts the Chiefs in my mind. Like, now I'm starting to question like. Especially after what happened in the Super Bowl, are the Chiefs the front runners in the AFC? Like, I don't know. I think this hurts them.
I totally agree with you, man. Like, I think those two players are more valuable than the one in Joe Tooney. And especially with the Chiefs offense, like you said, like they're one of the most pass, happy offenses out there. So, next on our list here in the AFC North, we have Bud Dupree. So, we all got him wrong. Oh, no. Actually, Connor and Nate got him correct going to Tennessee. That's the new team he joins. Eric and I had him staying in Pittsburgh and going to the Giants. So this was I'll let Connor speak about Bud Dupree, but I'll just say this for the Titans. I think it's a good move for the Titans because they desperately needed pass rush, and they're getting a veteran in that they don't have to rely on a rookie. So I think, the salary is a lot, but I think they desperately need a pass rush. So I think it's a good move for Tennessee. But Connor, this guy the best, so I'll let you talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an upgrade over Jadeveon Clowney. I just really question, like, how much the Titans are giving him because, I saw there's a reason why the Steelers didn't pick up his fifth-year option because when we drafted him, we were expecting him. We drafted him before T.J. Watt. He was supposed to be our next, edge rusher, and then he turned out to be very meh. And then we brought T.J. Watt in, and obviously Watt is T.J. Watt. He's been a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year the past 2 seasons. So, and really, it wasn't until he switched sides with T.J. Watt when he started getting better. And to me, I'm thinking like, okay, like maybe he is getting better. What really kind of, I don't know, put me off of him, because when I saw he was leaving, probably going to leave, I was like, oh man, like he's going to leave, like that's going to leave a hole over there. And also when he got hurt, I was like, oh man, that's a big hole over there. But then Alex Highsmith, our rookie, came in and played, he didn't play, he didn't get the huge number of sacks that Dupree had been getting, but like he got like a decent amount. Like he would put pressure on the quarterback. And it's just making me think like, were those numbers that he got inflated because obviously you're playing beside TJ Watt, who's, he commands double teams every play. And, as long as you're a decent rusher, you're going to get to the quarterback. So, like I said, it's an upgrade over Clowney. I just question paying him $16.5 million. I think that's way too much. I think maybe more in like the 11 million range would have been better, but I'm clearly I'm not an NFL GM, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think you always the top guys on the market you always overpay in free agency. It's like the middle tier guys that you want to get for the right price. So he was clearly, I guess, like the one of the top 3 guys after Shaq Barrett signed. Definitely that was like out there. So the Titans, he knew the Titans needed to get someone like him in, so he had some leverage. Speaking of another edge guy, Carl Lawson here for the Bengals. It was kind of like Okwara, like kind of a quiet guy to the rest of the NFL, but Bengals fans were really high on him. By the way, we all got him wrong in the predictions. He ended up signing with the Jets before we started the podcast, but as I was saying for the Okwara thing, like he, from what I've seen, his numbers aren't the greatest, but his pressure, like his sack numbers aren't very high, but his pressures and hits are at the top in the NFL, similar to like TJ Watt level with the pressures. Like, to me, I think this is a good move for the Jets. Obviously, they desperately needed edge, and pairing him with Quinnen Williams on that defensive line, I think is a really good move for them. And I think he's the better guy, definitely, compared to Dupree. Like, the Cincinnati defensive line, wasn't very good. He was the best guy on it. So I'm a big fan of this for the Jets. Nate, what about you? How do you feel about Carl Lawson? Do you agree with me on this one? Good move for the Jets?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a solid move for the Jets there. I think that's a great piece for him. And kind of like what we touched on earlier, I think kind of a bad move by the Bengals to let him go and then dump all that money on Hendrickson there. I think he would have been better off keeping him in town.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it definitely worked out for the Jets' favor.
For sure. So we'll get to the final group of free agency players, and we'll start with Yannick Ngakoue. So, he might end up on a Sports Jeopardy question down the line. What player went from Jacksonville to Minnesota to Baltimore to Las Vegas?
He was on Sports Jeopardy this last time.
Oh yeah, you're right. But for this specific question, so he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders in a, what was it, 2 years, 26 million, I think, or 23 million, something like that for the Raiders. So this, I'll definitely be talking. Me and Eric will be spending a lot of time on him. We all thought he'd stay in Baltimore, finally settle down, but he ended up not. He's going to Las Vegas. So the thing that stood out to me the most with this is just the lost opportunity for Jan, because the Jags at one point had an offer for him where he'd be getting $20 million a year for like 4 years, and not only did he turn that down and then get like half of that with the Raiders now, but also he lost $8 million on his salary last year because of being traded, and he gave up that $8 million to be traded essentially. So, just like from a financial perspective, like this is like one of the biggest losers in all of free agency. Like, I used to love Jan, but the way he handled that situation last year, like, really turned me off. He's like a villain now. So it's just kind of funny to me how
seems like all these Jags defenders are becoming villains, like Ramsey and Boye and Jan.
Like... I'm okay with Boye. I'm okay with Boye and Calais. Like I'm still gonna be fine.
Agreed.
But the way with Jan and Ramsey, like Ramsey, it's worked out for, I think, with the contract. But for Jan, I mean, his best success, like he definitely had a down year too. Like he definitely did not have as much success with these other teams than he's had with Jacksonville. So I guess I'm a fan of it for the Raiders because they really need pass rush, and that's basically what he does the best. So for the price, I think it was good for the Raiders. But Eric, are you in agreement with me about like kind of surprised that he was getting a $20 million a year offer from the Jags and now is like down at $13 million? Like, I know the cap went down and all, but are you surprised, or do you think that this is about his value?
I'm not surprised at all that the value went down. I even if the salary cap hadn't gone down, he probably would have still got about the same amount or maybe a little more, because it doesn't necessarily matter how good you are if you're causing so much drama to where you won't re-sign with the team that's giving you a huge offer. You demand to be traded, you get traded, and then that team ends up not wanting to keep you either. So then you get traded again. And each time he got traded, it was for worse value because it was like a second round pick with the Jags from the Vikings to the Jags. And then the Ravens only gave up like a third and a fifth or something like that to get him. So it's showing that teams are not as interested in his drama. And I don't know, he could still reap. And also the fact that he had a down year too also lowers his value. So, I mean, there's always a possibility that he could turn it around and then maybe get a huge contract next time. But, I mean, this is definitely a big win for the Raiders because you usually overpay in free agency, but I don't feel like they overpaid for him at all. I think they're getting a pretty good value for him. And we'll see what happens with him. But, I mean, I'm in the same boat with you, though. Like, as a Jags fan, like, I wanted the Jags to bring him back so bad, and I wanted us to pay him every dollar. Like I felt like
Pay Yawn. That was my name for
your Twitter thing for a while.
Yeah, you remember that
and all that. But then after the way he handled everything, and he was like cursing out Tony Khan, the Jaguars owner's son, on Twitter and all this stuff, and just had this huge drama going on. Like that lowered his value even more without him even realizing it. So that whole thing has just been a mess. And I don't know, man. Part of me like still wants him to have success and be good and everything, but he definitely put Jacksonville in a bad spot. So I definitely don't miss him either. That's for sure. So
yeah, it's a interesting case there. Like the Yawn thing, like he gave up so much money not to play for the Jags. Like it's just crazy. You never see that really. Like a guy gave up $8 million to be traded, but
sounds like Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, he really does. Really does. And the final free agent that's signed on our list, unless Connor has another breaking news thing come up, but that is going to be
not right now.
Okay, that's going to be Matt Judon, formerly of the Ravens. So another Ravens player leaving Baltimore. I could rant about Baltimore Ravens fans, honestly, like. Their fan base is so delusional and desperate, but you know,
and me both, brother.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I would actually like to hear about this more because I saw y'all talking about this in the group chat a little bit earlier, but I was at work, so I couldn't really
I'll
follow
save it
along. So I need an update on what happened here. So yeah,
I'll do it off air, Eric, for you. But
okay.
But for Judon, we all got his prediction wrong. We thought he would be a New York Football Giant, but he's going up north, but he's going to New England instead. So, Nate, I'll ask you a couple things. Are you surprised by this, and how do you think he's going to fit in the Belichick defense?
Yeah, so this is one I definitely didn't see coming. It sounded like a move that the Giants would have made, to pay up for a guy like that. That's usually not the Patriots' way of doing things, but I am excited about it. I think this is the best pass rusher we've had since they traded away Chandler Jones a few years back. I think that makes them more versatile, and they can do a lot more up front now. So I think that's exciting. And I don't know, it's a lot of money to put up there, but I think it's encouraging that it looks like Belichick's going kind of all in for once on trying to put together a playoff or championship roster. So I think he's gonna be a big piece towards doing that.
Yeah, that was the whole Patriot spending was a big surprise to me this free agency so far. But yeah, that's gonna wrap things up for this episode, guys. We'll be back with part 2 next week. We'll be talking about all the guys who haven't quite yet signed and give more a reaction to those sort of signings. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed my mini rants and listening to some of our...
And hopefully we don't have some of these people that are going to be stuck on here for a month like
last
year.
Hopefully.
And say for Zach and I's sake, hopefully between now and next week, the Jags will sign somebody that we don't have to know who they are.
Hopefully we'll be talking about the Jags next week, So
in a better light, not in a bad light.
Yeah, really. But yeah, hopefully hopefully y'all enjoyed. And until next week, guys, remember, be clutch.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey.